I hope everyone is here. I have 16 people pa. Can you call other people, please? I'll start at 11:05. Let me just scroll down to the t-test part. Oh. Before they come mag-t-test, guys, I'll discuss how to do the p-value test. Because as I promised before, I said na we're gonna deal with the traditional method of doing hypothesis testing and also the p-value method. Okay, so here is the p-value method steps. I hope you can see the screen, guys. And then at 11, maybe at 11:10, I'll start na good. Finally. Okay? Final na siya. 11:10. 19. By the way, guys, can you hear me? Because I'm actually at school right now. And then, can you hear me? I hope you can hear me, guys. 19 people palagi. Asa ang uban, guys? Okay, 20 pa man, guys. Asa ang uban? Hello? Asa ang uban? My apparel and the lamb. Who is that girl I see? Audio setting. Hello, my test, my test. Hello. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Use separate audio device to play ringtone simultaneously. Hello. Um, Pila ko ba tungod di ko naka-activate with other sound. Let's try to, okay. Hello. Hello? I think this is better. Hello? Hello, hello. Hello? 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 Okay. Kani guys, madungog ko. Feel na ko, tungod din sa akong mask ba? Okay na ang sound? I don't know, anong di mo load? Okay, so I'm gonna start na guys ha, kay it's already late, na late at 30 minutes, and then we started at 11. All right, so these are the steps for hypothesis testing using the p-value method. Okay, we have of course the first step is still stating the hypotheses. Second is computing the test value. Third, finding the p-value, and then fourth one is make up your decision whether to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis through the p-value decision rule. The p-value decision rule, guys, is written in red font. So take a look. If your p-value is less than or equal to your alpha, then you have to reject the null hypothesis. If your p-value is greater than your alpha, then accept the null hypothesis. So in this case, guys, we don't have to actually show an illustration. We don't have to draw the standard normal curve. We just have to follow this decision grid. And that's what I said earlier in red font. So let's have an example. Now, if you're going to ask me, sir, would that be the same answer using the traditional method? Yes. It'll be the same answer, but the figures will be different. Okay? So let me share instead my entire screen para ano, dili na ako mag-switch to mang-close ako kuan kaysa mang-close ako og mga angay close. So mga kababalaghan. Yeah, I think it's close naman. Sige, let me share my screen here. Okay, so these are the steps again. So let's have an example. Funny. A researcher wishes to test the claim that the average cost of tuition and fees at a four-year public college is greater than 290,700. She selects a random sample of 36 four-year public colleges and find that the mean to be 303. Wait, is this? One moment. Okay, sakto. Found out that to be 303,450. The population standard deviation is 33,609. The question here is there enough evidence to support the claim at alpha 0.05? Use p-value method. So during the examination, guys, or the assignments, I'm going to tell specifically if we're going to use the p-value method or the traditional method. Okay? Feel ko ba? Because, ay, same na gihapon ang detection sa sound. Okay. Kasi mag-mask ko, same na gihapon. So, let's continue. Now, first, what's gonna be our statement of hypothesis for this one, guys? What's our statement of hypothesis? What's our null hypothesis in this example? Okay. So I'm just going to show it to you guys. It's equal to 290,700. Thank you so much, Sophia. So here is the statement of hypotheses. The null hypothesis is equal to 2,900,700 because that's the population mean. Okay. The alternative hypothesis uses greater than because of this statement here. At a 4-year public college is greater than 290,700. And that's technically the claim. Look at the situation. A researcher wishes to test the claim now that the average cost of tuition and fees at a 4-year public college is greater than 290 and 700. So that's why we have a claim here greater than 290,700. Okay, one moment. I'm back. Hello, Black. All right. So, no questions so far, guys. Ano na porma na to ang alternative hypothesis. So, I'm gonna proceed to the next step. Okay? The next step is computing the test value. If you notice, if you remember the first or the traditional method that we have before, ang kanina step was actually the third step, right? But in p-value method or p-value way of solving hypothesis testing, this is the second step. So, with that being said, our sample um, mean, which is actually 3,000, or sorry, 303,450, because that's coming from the random sample of 36 four-year public colleges. See, she selects a random sample of 36 four-year public colleges and find the mean to be 303,450. This means to say that the 303,450 is coming from the sample size, which represented by this symbol. And this symbol that we have here, this murag U, it's the population standard deviation, which is population mean, which is 290,700. So, sabi siya tanta dira, and then our standard deviation from the population is, by the way, nganong z-test ni? I hope you remember nganong z-test ni. We're using z-test for this problem. It's because the population standard deviation is given or known. So we have 33,609 as our standard deviation from the population. And then our N is the sample size, which is 36 four-year public colleges. If you're going to simplify this, guys, we would get an answer of 2.28. Kindly get your calculator if you have the same answer. You know, 2.28. Hey, um, I hope you get the same answer. Sige. Next item we have here, the hypothesis test finding the p-value method. Okay, the test two, guys, is going to be the 2.28. That's going to be our z-score, which will be used to determine the p-value method. So what you would need to do, guys, here, find the p-value method. The p-value method is technically the area considered in the problem. So where did I get the 2.28 illustration here? This 2.28, guys, was coming from the second step, which is the test value, this one here. And then why did we include, or why are we focusing on the right side of the standard normal curve? Ngano man? Nganong dito man ta sa right side? Nganong wala man ta sa left side? Can anyone answer it? I'm gonna call people. Where's our chat box? Okay. Okay, here, na any answer. Z-test ang gigamit ani niya at first. Z-test ni siya because the population standard deviation is given. Mama na ato ang requirement para mo gamit og Z-test. So if the standard or if the population standard deviation is given or known, we're gonna be using Z-test. Okay. So said by Grace and Jack, they said it's greater than, that's why we are dealing with the right portion of the region of the normal curve. So kabaw na ta dapat unsa ang pagkaibaw sa p-value, kay this was the same as before man kato mga probability na to. Remember mo ato? Diba? Ka-remember mo ato itong probability na to, itong probability of standard deviation, probability under the normal curve. So we just need to look for pila may area from 0 to 2.28. That area is given by 0.4887. How did I know this? Use your Z table to know the answer. Then, because the area of the half of the normal curve is 0.50 man, and we are dealing with the area of the shaded region, it is only a must or logical to say now we are going to subtract 0.4887 from 0.50, which would give us 0.0113. So in other words, guys, the p-value is the area of the normal curve not considered in the problem. So take note. Your area here is 0.000, sorry, 0.0113. Okay? Now, let's do to step 4. This is your decision making grid. Your decision making will still be based on your null hypothesis. Morgan always, guys, either the p value method or traditional method, you're going to be dealing with decision making. You're going to focus if you're going to reject the null hypothesis or accept the null hypothesis. So here, remember that your p value method was 0.0113, which is less than your alpha. Your alpha given in the problem is 0.005. And as I've mentioned before, the alpha or the level of significance will be given in the problem all the time. Okay? Or not a uniform, but in reality, guys, you can always choose your own alpha or level of significance. But in our problem, to have a uniformity, we are going to pick the same. We're going to set an alpha for us. So if you're going to compare 0.0113 and 0.05, is 0.0113 lesser than or greater than? It is lesser than. With that being said, we can now say to reject the null hypothesis because mo man ito ang decision-making grid. Kana. So reject the null hypothesis and make the decision-making. The claim was HA, which is um, the alternative hypothesis. But since we are rejecting it, we can say there's enough evidence to support the claim, which is the HA. Balik ko sa first step. Rejecting this, so I'm gonna highlight it. Rejecting this part here, rejecting that, which means to say we are accepting, oh, rejecting this long, sorry, rejecting HO here, meaning to say we are accepting HA. So you can say in your solution or in your conclusion, there is enough evidence to support HA or to support the claim because the claim here is the HA man. Okay? You can also say there is enough evidence to reject the null because we are rejecting the null hypothesis. It's up to you, basta ang iyang thought is you are rejecting the null hypothesis. There is enough evidence to support the claim that the tuition and fees of a four-year public college are greater than 290,700. Questions so far for this example? Where's our chat box? Okay. Question. Okay. All right. So, can you try to solve this? Sige. Kana. A researcher claims that the average wind speed, yun sa ganito ang A, sa Z-test. What do you mean by A? Alpha is given. Alpha is given. Alpha is given. And then your decision-making rule is that if your p-value is less than or equal to alpha, you have to reject the null hypothesis. If your p-value is greater than your alpha, then you have to accept the null hypothesis. Okay. So let's have this problem here, guys. A researcher claims that the average wind speed in a certain city is 8 miles per hour. A sample of 32 days has an average speed of 8.2 miles per hour. The standard deviation of the population is 0.6 mile per hour. At alpha, 0.05, Is there enough evidence to reject the claim? Use the p-value method. And as you can see, you are given the steps in the p-value method. So what do you think would be our decision making? So what do you mean by alternative Ediza? Who's Grace Ediza? As far as I can remember, I only have Ricardo Ediza. Look now. Who's Grace Ediza, guys? Null is 8 miles. Okay, null is 8 miles. Okay. Are you sure? Okay, good, good. So null is 8 miles per hour, and then alternative is not equal to 8 miles per hour. Mm, okay, good, good, very good. Okay, okay, good, good, good. So that's a good statement of hypotheses, burden. Your null, guys, is equal to 8 miles per hour, or you can just use eight, guys. But you need to remember nga mao na ang unit ana nga number. Next is your alternative hypothesis not equal to 8 miles per hour. Very good. That's correct. Now compute the test value. I don't have my calculator. I forgot my calculator. I'll download a calculator on my phone, guys, a scientific calculator, and then let's try to compare our answers. Go. All right. So what is your what is your Sunny? What is your what do you call that? What anong ko? What is your one? Negative? You got negative. I have positive. I have I have a positive. Trish, just ask her for a medical certificate, please. Thank you. Um, okay, okay. So the answer should be positive 1.89. Good job. Good job, Jazel Campos. So I'm gonna draw it on my magical whiteboard, guys. Ano wa? So guys, since Burden said that the alternative hypothesis says not equal to, this would follow nga we're doing a two-tailed test. Okay. Remember, if not equal to, it should be two-tailed test. So one for positive 8, 1.89, and one for negative 1.89. No? And then the area that we are going to be considering, guys, which part? Which part of which area? What do you think? Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually using a different device, guys, because I am not at home. Oh, hello, hello, hello there. Hello. Hey. Dito, I don't know. Hinay siya. I don't know. Kasabot nga naman, hinay siya, guys. Kimochi. Anyway, so we're gonna be doing two-tailed tests. So the area that we are going to be considering, guys, is kani siya nga part here. Kay two-tailed man siya. Remember? Ganong two-tailed siya, it's because of the alternative hypothesis nga not equal to. So we just need to know pila area aning both sides ana dira. So we're gonna look at our z table. We're gonna look for pila area from 0 to 1.89. And kung unsay masoli mo ng area dira, same ra po na sa area dira. Kaya remember, symmetrical ba na sila. So let's search Z table. I didn't save the Z table. Images here. I hope you can see this. I hope it's visible. Ngi, gamay man siya. I think makita ni siya. Okay. It's 1.89 daw. So, kani 1.8. The other one is 0.089. So, it's 4706. So, the area here is 4706. And because we're only considering this area there, we would have 0.0500 minus 0.4706, which is equal to, ilan na guys? Uh, zero point 0.5 minus 44706, 0.0294. I think that's correct. Okay. So, nanataan nino, this is our p-value na. That's our p-value. P-value. Now, let's go to our decision grade. So, where's that? But please ko nang remember ana ha kay dali ako malimot. So our decision grade, guys, make the decision to reject or not to accept the null hypothesis through the p-value decision rule. So pila ganitong p-value, guys? Let me annotate. Pila tong p-value? Pila tong p-value? Di ko kasuwat. Di ko kasuwat. Mag-annotate na lang ko. Ay, sige. Pila tong p-value? So our p-value is 0.0294 and our alpha is 0.05. Is this less than? Yeah, I think it's less than. So this follows that we're going to reject our null hypothesis. Bayot. So, katong null hypothesis ni Burden earlier. Asa to Burden? Let me scroll up sa chat box. Sige. To reject ang null hypothesis, in other words, accepted si alternative. So, we can conclude nga, okay, sir, we can say di ay, sir, nga, the average wind speed sa usa ka city is not equal to 8 miles per hour. Nagets? So let me type it down. In conclusion, sir, in conclusion, the sir, we are able to reflect. Charot, we're able to reflect. In conclusion, we are able to um, infer that the average wind speed in a certain city is not equal to 8 miles per hour. Kaya nga naman, we are accepting the null hypothesis. We are accepting the alternative, rejecting the null. So that would be one of your conclusion nga pwede nyo isuwat sa step 5. You can make your own words, guys, if you want. Basta make sure lang yun nga ang thought still the same. Okay? Dili mo lupad sa laing nasod. Kaya wrong na siya. Sige, I wanna try to ask anyone. Anyone can type lang. Can you make your own conclusion that would have the same thought? Now we are rejecting the null hypothesis. I'll call people, ha? Sige, let me hear 2 people. Um, how about Lucero? Can you make can you write a conclusion that would have the same meaning of rejecting the null hypothesis? 2 minutes. Is Chloe Lucero there, guys? Oh, anybody home? Sige, ang second person kay si Christine Herbieto. So go guys. Write your own statements ba or conclusion. That would have the same meaning. We're still rejecting the null hypothesis. Okay, there's a lot of ways to write it man. Sa kuang part, maka nga ko nga. Sa kuang kuan na, my own lyrics, my own words ba, I can say nga, sir, in conclusion, sir, kay we're able to infer nga ang average day sa wind speed sa usa ka city, sir, kay dili equal to 8 miles per hour. Based sa ato ang hypothesis testing, sir. So if you were to write your own conclusion, guys, give me an example. Christine Herbieto and is it usa? Is it usa? Chloe Lucero. All right, so let's just proceed to the next example, guys. I hope it's clear to you. And to those two people I have called who have not answered, I hope you realize what you are doing. Okay, so let's proceed to the next part. And I hope they are not sleeping as well. Okay, so these are the two assignments I'm going to give you guys. A researcher, let me just remove the annotations. Okay. Um, well, you can just inform me if naglibog ka rather than not answering me. I waited for like almost 7 minutes. But anyway, I hope you were able to get back on the recording and review as to what's happening, okay? And see. What I'm just trying to say, guys, is you don't have to like go beyond what I have answered. What I'm trying to say is that can you paraphrase or can you make your own conclusion that would have the same meaning sa ako ang mentioned earlier? Ano ba? This is what I said earlier. We're able to um we are able to conclude that I wrote that on the chat box. I said nga, can you make your own statements or conclusion with the same thought, ana? So, because there are different ways manggod nga pwede nimo i-explain ang conclusion. There are different ways to say the conclusion. Mura na guna siya kuan guys. 6 plus 6 is 12. So as 3 plus 3 times 4 is also 12. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to look for is your own conclusion that would have the same thought lang yun. And para ma-avoid na to ang pangopya of answer, we can force ourselves to make our own answers. So I'm gonna upload this, guys, as our assignment. A researcher, these two things here. A researcher claims that the yearly consumption of soft drinks per person is 52 gallons. In a sample of 50 randomly selected people, the mean of the yearly consumption was 56.3 gallons. The standard deviation of the population is 3.5 gallons. Find the p-value. Is the researcher's claim valid? So number one, guys, is going to be p-value method. Number two, it didn't actually specify on sa nga method imong gamiton, either p-value or traditional. It's up to you. Okay? I hope you would be able to like review this before answering this item. I'm sorry. Yes, this is a legit homework. Legit. I don't know. Anong hindi ko sabot guys. Feel ako sa wait ha. I'll try to change the chord ha. Pero this is a legit homework guys. Hello? Hello. Kani madungog ko pero madungog ko pero na ay background sure ba? No? Sakto ba ko? Madungog ko pero na ay background sure ba lost na ay samok. Pero is the voice better compared ganiha? Na ay ko. Let me okay, wait sa ha. How about I'm going to use a different chord na set. Chord naman video siya guys. I'm gonna sing from Ano daw guys? Is this better? Better. Diamonds are forever. Forever. Kana. Pila ko dapat yun ipadoon akong baba sa microphone guys. Awa, si Birdie na-create na-create na og kuan, na-create na og kanang sana na-create na siya og hypothesis statements also. Guys, again, these two things here are legit assignments. I am going to upload these two assignments sa Shello para naamoy ma-refer. And then the deadline of this assignment, guys, is 11:59 p.m. Saturday. Saturday ha, so you have tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. And then I would suggest guys, do not do the assignments kana nang mag-procrastinate na mo kay matimingan, mawagtang yung internet, hindi mo ka-submit. So ayaw mo ka ng manyana habit. Kanang if na may times nga makahimo sa assignment at the same time the internet is working fine, I would suggest to do it ana nga panahon para at least wala mo hunahon ba magsige mo kunya-unya magtapon og tasad na siya. Nya. Di ray ako maghatag assignment na laing subject by youth. So, hi man. Mo nang sometimes mag-send mo email na ko, sir, can I submit the assignment later part? Sir ko, ngano man, mangutan na siya, ngano man, among internet siya na lata na ka na nga rason, guys. Ha? Sige. Ya amoy until namoy starting tomorrow or starting karong hapon or wala may klase, sayo mo man yung klase, ugma sa entire day or sa tuang time inig ka Thursday, pwede mo maghimo ana nga time kay synchronous man na to. And then Friday. And then next week, guys, kay I'll have a quiz na. Mag-quiz na to next week ha. And this is going to be our first, I think, first assignment mo siguro ni. First assignment is let me see ha. Sa fourth quarter. Ay, mo second din ni Oy sa fourth quarter. Ay, first pa di ay. Okay. First assignment for the fourth quarter. And then next week, kay mag-quiz na ko. Ha? Okay. All right. So, again, I hope na-cover to guys na sabtan to ang p-value method o ang traditional method. Again, this is recorded. So, if there are things nga libog siya guys, you can revisit this recording. I'm gonna upload this on Shello sad para at least nasa may idea ba nga kanang maglibog-libog dira. So, karon, we have another type of test. Everyone na nag-chat. Sa kaning homework, sir, they're both P or 1Z. Ang number one, oh, ang kuan, sayop siya nga pangutana burden. Ang first yung pangutana is, are they both p-value method or using traditional method? Ang kanang Z kay it's a different it's supposed to be a different question. Wala ta ka dapat nga. Sir, is this a Z test or a different test? Okay, so unsa the requirement for a Z test? No, very good. What's the requirement for a z-test? Dapat si population standard deviation is given or known. Kuha? Dapat naagin ang population standard deviation. And then next, sir, is this p-value method or traditional method? Number one item showed you to use the p-value method. Let me go back to the previous slide. Now, ang number one, it says here, find the p-value. And then once you are going to find the p-value, na additional question niya, is the researcher's claim valid? Meaning to say, pwede ba natong suportaan ang claim sa researcher? Tinuod ba ang claim sa researcher? So in this problem number one here, it's p-value method. Number two, guys, it did not specify if it's going to be p-value method or traditional method. This is where you have the freedom to choose either of the two. You can use either p-value method or traditional method. Okay? So you just have to follow the step-by-step process that we have discussed since last week and this day. And I think it would be like easy for you to make it, guys. Ailan siya mo palipat sa mga signs whenever you do your solutions. Okay? All right. So we have another type of test, guys. We still have 12 minutes. We have the t-test for Amine. So first test was a z-test for Amine. This time it's a t-test for Amine. You're going to be using this if the population standard deviation is not given. So if you remember our previous examples, you mentioned good ang population standard deviation, no? Pero sa kaning scenario, guys, ang population standard deviation is not given. Ang naa instead is the sample standard deviation. Na ay mga instances nga dili niya i-mention nga technically sample, but na ay mga clues kung asa siya gikan. And take a look at the formula. It's somehow similar to the z-test formula, guys. It's just that na ay pakapin nga degrees of freedom. And there is going to be another table that we are going to use, not the z tables, not the z table anymore. It's going to be the t table na yun. So it's going to be a different table that we're going to be using. So here, let's try to infer this first example that we have. A medical investigation claims that the average number of infections per week at the hospital in a particular area is 16.3. A random sample of 10 weeks had a mean number of 17.7 infections. The sample standard deviation is 1.8. The question here, is there enough evidence to reject the investigator's claim at alpha 0.05? Assume the variable is normally distributed. So if you notice here, guys, the sample size is less than 30. That's also one of the requirements that you're going to use t-test. And another requirement is going to be the sample standard deviation is given. The population standard deviation is unknown. You don't know what's the population standard deviation here. Do you agree? Nabay nakabutang nga population standard deviation? Wala. Ang naa instead is sample standard deviation. This gives us an idea that we are going to be using t-test, not z-test. Okay? So the steps will still follow. The steps will still be the same, guys. It's just that the type of test is different. So state the hypotheses, find the critical values. This is traditional method, by the way. Compute the test value, make the decision to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis, and then lastly summarize the results and state the conclusion. Okay, so let's have this item here. Now, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this and then I'm gonna solve it sa tuang magical whiteboard. Here. No? I hope you can see it. So our where's my pen? Our statement of hypothesis, number one, guys, our null is alpha equals 16.3. And alternative, um, claims that average, okay. Okay, not equal to 16.3. Do we follow? Okay. Now, number two, guys, is we need to find the critical value. First thing that you need to consider is the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is n minus 1. That's in the formula here. Degrees of freedom is here. Degrees of freedom is n minus 1. So in that example, we would have pilay n na to here. Our n is 10, a random sample of 10 weeks. So 10 minus 1, we would have 9. And then the table that we are going to be using, guys, is this one. Students T table. T table. So kani siya, guys. I'm gonna send a copy of this table to our GC para at least makita mo. Okay. So, naka-notice mo, kaning DF, guys, mo na gitawag na degrees of freedom. So, base here, our degrees of freedom is 9. Tama? So, nata naka-focus here. Let me annotate. Nata naka-focus on 9. Kaya mo na tong degrees of freedom. Now, natin duha ka options here. Natin one tail o natin two tail. Ang kaning type of test nga atong gamiton, guys, kani, this is a two-tailed test. Nganong two-tailed siya? Very good. Nganong two-tailed siya, Angela? It's because of the not equal to. It's a two-tailed test. Ay, sir, ako bang gisikit, sir? Dito ka malain. Akong gisikit ba? Sunod, balik ka sa table. So, arita mag-focus kani. So, two-tailed. Na natin 9. Pilay alpha na to. So, balik ka sa alpha. Atong alpha, guys, is 0.05. So, here. Ang alpha na to, guys, kay there is a two-tailed nga row 0 point dara. So I'm gonna um, annotate here. So two-tailed ta 0.05 and then degrees of freedom nga 9. So ang atong critical value, guys, is dara 2.62 or 60 ay 2.26 62 2.26 2.26. So here ana usa nga positive nga 2.26 26, sorry. Ana, and then diri kay negative 2.26 nga. Shade na siya dira. And then, solve ito sa to ang test value, step 3 na ta. So, same naman siya formula, guys. Ana, ragi hapon nga. S lang na siya. And then, ana. So, our sample mean, guys, is 17.7 minus 16.3 over standard deviation of the population, sample is 1.8 over square root of 10. Wala answer ani, guys. Wala ko'y calculator. Kasad. Wala answer na. Um, pila na? 17.7 minus 16.3 over pila na? 1.8 over square root of 10. 2.46. I got 2.46. Very good. Thank you so much, Jazel. So look at the situation now, guys. Our step 4 is decision making if we were to accept or reject the null hypothesis. Asa man na belongs to 2.46? Acceptance region or rejection region? When I say rejection, kanang shaded region ha, shaded. So shaded kani rejection ni diri, nga rejection po ni diri. Acceptance ang naa sa tunga. So asa na belongs si 2.46? Acceptance or rejection? All right. Accept? Sure, oy. Rejection. 2.46, guys, is somewhere here. 2.46. In other words, reject the spelling, reject the null hypothesis. So step 5, guys, is your conclusion na dayon. So this is your statement of hypothesis no, and then we are rejecting this. So first na kung pwede na kung mabuhat ang statement ha, accept accept that the mean average is not equal to 16.3. That's one statement that I can answer. Another scenario, we can conclude no, that the the redundant naman din ng mean average, tantangan ng mean, that the average is not equal to 16.3. That's another scenario nga pwede nyo ma-state ang conclusion niya. You can say nga, there is enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. You can also say there is enough evidence to accept the alternative hypothesis. And that's how you do t-tests for traditional method. Question, it's already 11:57. What does the degrees of freedom, difference of freedom, degrees of freedom, question, it's already 11:58. Almost lunch break now. So that's it. No questions. Ang Z-test traditional same pod. Yeah. No. What do you mean by same pod? What do you mean by Z-test traditional same? Katong Z-test guys, katong discussion na to last week. Tanaw to sa recording. Okay, sure, Jack. Here. So, di ba, degrees of freedom is given by the formula n minus 1. Tama? The degrees of freedom is given by the formula n minus 1, where n is the number of sample size. The sample size that we have for this problem is 10 man. No, pila man ng 10 minus 1? 9. No? So, narata diri. Kaning 9 yan. Kaning first column, mo ning degrees of freedom. 9. Tapos, was it two-tail or one-tail? It was two-tail because of the alternative hypothesis nga not equal to. And then what's your alpha? Ari ka diri, 0.05. And given alpha 0.05 man. And the cross-section of 9 and 0.05 is 2.26. Question. Yeah, 0.05. The alpha. Yes, Ricardo, it's 0.05 here. It's in the given in the problem. All right. Question, more questions? So DF plus A, no, not, okay. DF and A. I was thinking you add the two numbers. Yes. Degrees of freedom and A. And do not forget if it's two-tail or one-tail. Kuha? Sa kaninga part lang nga problem, it's two-tail because of the alternative hypothesis says nga not equal to. Okay? Have a happy lunch, guys. Take care, everyone. No more questions? Thank you, Jack. Take care, guys. And I'm going to stop recording, okay?